Like I was taking big risks on it, and I wasn't thinking logic of it. Like people don't realize what happens when you're in the business when something does happen, how much so important it is to have insurance to protect yourself.
Detailer's Roadmap Cruise Control, where we navigate the roadways of life, business, and everything in between. Hey guys, it's Kevin Davis from the Cruise Control Podcast. Today I'm going to be here with my buddy Joy Arroyo, and I'm super excited to have him on. I've known him for quite a while, like I have with so many of my other guests, and he reached out to me and said, hey, let's get together, man, and have a podcast. I have a lot to share with the industry, so I'm excited about that. Before we get started, go to detailsroadmap.com, check out that little button there at the top, and you can book a demo with Patrick. Patrick will walk you through what you got going on now with your SEO, with your website. He may say, look, you're awesome, everything's going well. Or he may say, hey, we can really help you to bring you up to that next level. So go book a demo right now. He'll be able to walk you through all that. It's totally free, no obligation. So get that going. Detailsroadmap.com. Before I get going, let me give Jay's brief bio here. I'll let him fill in the gaps like we always do. He's a partner in Ace of Spades Auto Detailing. From a military brat to detailing, he's made the transition now from mobile detailing to running a full-scale, successful, larger operation. That's kind of the short and sweet version of it. We were talking earlier, Jay's down in Georgia, but hey, can you give me that superhero backstory? We always do it on this podcast, which just gives people an opportunity to really see who we're talking to, and start as early as you want, be as personal as you want, whatever you want to share, and then we want to hear the story about kind of your business transition and going through those and how you got to where you're at now. So
like I said, my name is Jay with Ace of Spades Auto Detailing. Originally started off in Atlanta, but the backstory on how it worked was before I did anything, I was really just working a regular 9-to-5 job. I think it was Georgia Georgia Title Pawn or something like that, just to make a living. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then one day, one of my friend Austin gave me an opportunity to say, hey, you want to come work for the ballet? And I was like, yeah, I need extra income, man. I got to make more money. So I started working there for about 2 weeks. And within the 2 weeks, I had 3 jobs at one time. It was crazy. But within 2 weeks, the owner could not operate the ballet very well. He just could not do it. So he ended up giving me the company.
Wow.
So me and one other guy, Andrew, I'm not going to lie, it was a little junk change money, but it was enough to just have me a little float with extra cash. I took it within 3 months, and then I ended up operating it with, I think, 4 employees with the ballet. And then it just started skyrocketing.
Now, is this down in Buckhead? Down in Buckhead area? So explain to people that don't know Atlanta what Buckhead is.
Yeah, Buckhead is usually where the big nightlife used to be back in the days. Until they shut down the nightlife, and now they moved them all over the place. But we were on Far Road. Most people know Atlanta Fish Market, which is the big icon of the big fish. We ran that strip down there behind Eclipse, called the Eclipse Building, and I ran the valet. Ran it for. I was still running it now, but when I first started, it was just like I said, it was just me and one guy. Then it came to adding 2 more people. And then eventually the guy got out of the business and said, it's all yours.
Wow.
So I ran it, but I didn't understand running companies. I was more like how my dad was, more of a hustler, just side job, more thing. And my good friend of mine, Rakarsha, I remember he was telling me, he worked for me. He was like, you're really not an owner. You're really just a hustler. And I was like, huh? And he was like, for you to get where you need to be, you want to grow, you want to be an actual owner, you really need to make it a legit business. And I did. I figured all the steps. He told me exactly what I need to do, and I did it. And then it got so big that I got up to 12 employees running the ballet. Huge. But as I was going through the ballet, it's the first time I've ever been in Buckhead for a long time. I really hadn't been in Buckhead, only just to work there. But I was so fascinated with everybody bringing these Ferraris and Lambos and like weird cars. I'm like, what in the heck is this? Sometimes it was scared for me to even drive them because I was like, man, I get in an accident, one of these, scratch it, my business is done.
Yeah.
And I would, before, I know you've seen it on Instagram, you got those, the kid, oh, what do you do for a living? Used to go to all these rich people.
Yeah.
That's what I used to do. I used to say,
School of Hard Knocks. If you don't know what Jay's talking about, that guy has built, first of all, amazing job building that channel because he has access to people that are kind of unbelievable. Obviously, that's staged when he's like, hey, because, you know, some of it, like in the early days, it wasn't, but like his School of Hard Knocks, TikTok and Instagram too.
right.
But go check that guy out. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No.
I wanted to give that context because that guy, I follow him and it's super awesome what he's done with that channel.
I follow him too, and it was just like, it was crazy because that's what I used to ask people when they pull up, even though it may be an older Ferrari. I don't care. What I would love to have one of those, but you know, what did you do? And then they would tell me all this and tell me all that, and I would just I listen and I take pieces from everybody. I mean, for doing it for, you know, since what, 10 years strong in the valet business, I've learned a lot from a lot of people. So one thing I learned was, you know, you got to keep adding. You can't keep all your eggs in one basket.
Yep.
So, you know, I had working for the Jotto Pond. So I was working for UPS from 1 in the morning to 9 a.m. And then from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., I would work for Georgia Auto Pawn Title in Roswell. And then from there, I worked nighttime to work Witch Call. And I would sleep. And every lunch or break or whatever I did, that's what I would do. I sleep in my car. And that's how I was managing three jobs at a time. And that's how I realized I needed to keep more money flowing. You got to keep it. You got to have pieces everywhere.
Yeah.
But then I started looking at it. I can start doing that and have it in my own company and start doing it. So I started learning into that. My biggest thing what turned me around is this guy named Devin. He actually owns a detailing business. That's, you know, me and him still cool. He worked for me at the valet, and he would detail cars while he would valet our cars. And he didn't use water or anything. It was just touchless. And I was impressed. I was like, what? No water? You're going to scratch a car? Like, I was really like, I was like, I didn't see how that was working, but he was doing high-end cars, but he was fast. So I was like, man, he really doing it. And then, you know, one day, kind of getting a little fallout, he quit on me right on the biggest day of all, biggest event of all, like the biggest event. I'm talking about parking over 400 cars a day.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it was the biggest event, and he just quit on me in the, like, right before it started opening, and it was just like, oh my God. And it kind of took me off of, it kind of made me feel some type of way. I mean, I guess, you know, I realized hiring your friends into the company, you can have some bad vibes, and then before you know, you're kind of splitting off from each other. So I learned not to bring, you know, friends involved into your business, kind of keep that separate. Like I said, I learned the hard way. I didn't get a lot of help. Podcast wasn't big back then, you know, wasn't. So, you know, I just had to learn a different way. Social media wasn't big back then, you know, for me. So, because I didn't even have Facebook or Instagram, anything like that. So then one day I came to work, come washing cars in my parking lot, you know, and like, you know, I felt like a little slap in the face on that. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I just, you know, been nice. Hey, can you move cars? And moved and everything. And I don't know what made me think about it. I was like, I think I want to detail cars. You know, it was impressive what he did. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was you're valeting cars, high-end cars, you know, get the client. So I trained myself for 2 to 3 weeks YouTubing on my own. No help, nothing, no pages to learn from Facebook, none of that. Just learn it to try it. My very first customer was my mom. And boy, I tell you right now, ain't nobody can press her. I don't care. I don't care what detailer you are. You could be the best detailer in Sarasota, and I promise you, she's gonna find something wrong. That's just how she was. And she was my first client, and she was just not this, and you forgot this, and I'm like, all right. And then, you know, she would give me $100, and I was like, you didn't have to pay mom. She's like, no, I know you're trying. And I took every money that I had saved from the valet, and I think about $8,000, and I put it all into another business, and then that became the Ace of Spades Auto Detailing. I didn't understand, you know, corporations and all that stuff, LLC. Didn't know this. It was sole provider. I put it in with the valet as well. Again, not knowing a lot about it, how, you know, got to keep it separate entities. And then I, you know, learn as I went, you know, and then as I gone into that, I was doing it, but I would do it and I would do really well. And it was waterless car wash is how I started. The same way he did it.
Like using ONR or something like that?
Chemical Guys. Remember,
Okay. Yeah.
Chemical Guys came out. I believe every amateur has done that. Most of it has done
Yeah,
Chemical
yeah.
Guys.
Almost everybody has gotten in there with. I mean, because Chemical Guys, they got it's got decent stuff. Like you can make it work for that. It's not great.
I can never knock it because it worked for me.
Yeah, right.
It grew me. But as I got more into it and experienced more into it, I started learning there's other products out there that are better. Just like the detailer belt. I've always would have rags in my pockets, but then they fall out, and then or I lose a tool and I can't find the tool. So when I saw your belt on Amazon one time, and I was like, oh, let me order it. It's a green one, and then that's how I got connected with you. And I was like, oh, okay, pretty nice guy. So like I said, I never gotten help. I never understood which direction to go. It was more just doing this on my own. But my valet was where I was taking it to most, not thinking too much of what the detailing could have gave me in this future. I mean, we were talking about making $1,000 a day. I mean, only working 5 hours, from 7 to 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, to me, I was like, oh, that's great money.
Yeah.
Then, I started getting.
And it's pretty high. I mean, there's not a lot of overhead other than you're paying your guys plus their splitting tips and stuff like that.
I paid them hourly rate plus their tips. But what was so crazy was, in Atlanta, you got to pay for their parking lots. They ain't giving those things for free.
Yeah.
So what I was doing and what I've always learned was to take care of people. And I've always took care of people. That's why I'm always a good people person. But I would wash their cars for free.
Okay.
To get their lots. So I had pretty much ran the whole strip. I had Atlanta Fish Market parking lot. I had the Eclipse building parking lots. I had the Sahara on the other building parking lot. I had it all. And it was all free. So it was like, I was doing great. I was loving it. I got married in 2019 with Donna, my wife, which is now a partner that I told you about.
Yep.
And when she came in, she wasn't too thrilled about me doing the light life, especially all the women and all the people. And trust me, the fame that you get with, I mean, honestly, everybody would just knew who I was. I wasn't just a nobody. I was somebody. But my wife kept saying, your detailing is your longevity. That's where your money is. And I was like, no, I'm bringing cash home. Because I remember when I first dated her son thought I was a drug dealer because I would dump all this cash out at the end of the day. And I would hand him.
He was trying to get moms to not get away from me.
So I remember he said, yeah, my son asked if you were a drug dealer. And I was like, what? He said, because you would come home every night with just cash. And so I would lay it all out, but all the ones I give it to her kids. And I was like, oh, you guys can have it. I just thought ones were just junk to me. I don't know. That's how, when you were making that much money,
you're making 30 grand a month. Those guys are making 3,500 because you're giving all their ones.
They were doing good. Trust me. They were doing good. I ain't gonna lie. They still remember the days. Like if you talk to them now, they were like, oh, I remember this day. I remember this day. And they're like, you just did not care. And now I'm like, oh no, I need every dollar now.
Yeah, right.
You start realizing it. But like I said, I never looked past future wise. I kind of just play daily by daily type thing.
You weren't looking past 2:01 a.m. basically every day, right?
Yeah. It was a routine as I worked the valet, and I didn't even crazy part was I had so much employees. I never worked. I would always just drive by, collect money, pay everybody out that day, and move out. I had a manager that ran it all, and then I would do the detailing. But the detailing I wasn't pushing like I should, but I was still doing it. Shoot, there was times that we would go out there at midnight and do detailing at midnight, and my employees would say, "Hey, you want your car washed while you're valeting?" And that's how we were getting them. We come out there, we were $25 car wash. That's what we used to be. Everybody knew it was $25 if you had a car, $35 if you had an SUV. That's just
but how long is that taking? I mean, if you're doing a quick waterless wash, that's like 10 minutes.
No, at the time with the waterless car wash, I did that for a while, and the reason why I did that for a while just because I was trying to build money up and revenue and stuff like that. Once I had enough money, I use only the detailing money to buy detailing products. I only use it for the beginning from the valet money. After that, I was like, all right, let me separate valet money for valet only. If I need cones or and then it came to a part where there was times where I had to buy I had to buy owner stuff. I'd buy them gift cards I
Right.
still had to throw some money in to save money, you know. So
Yeah.
then it came to using, once I got the operation into the detailing, I was using waterless car wash. And then when it got to the point, my very first one, I bought my pressure washer from Northern Tool.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you know, because, you know, I know too much about this stuff. And I was running it out of my Chevy Malibu. 2012 Chevy Malibu is what I was running out
Nice.
of. I
Nice.
kid you not. Silver. So I still even have the picture of it. And I had the pressure washer in the back seat. And
Mm.
then I had the water hose. Like, I was doing all types of stuff. And that's how I operated. And then when I made my first money, I, you know, was making money and I saved up. I saved up about 3,500, and I bought myself a truck. You know, jacked up, trying to look all cool and stuff. And it did bring attention, you know,
Yeah.
got a logo and all that stuff. And it worked out great. And then after that, got the second truck. Second truck even worked out even amazing. So I had two trucks, and then I got my first employee, you know,
And are
working.
you carrying your own water and all
Yep.
that stuff at this point?
Yeah.
So in the Malibu, you're obviously using lot water, right? Or
Well, I didn't use
waterless.
waterless car wash until I bought the pressure washer. I threw the
Okay.
pressure washer in it, and then I would only use it for their hookup. So you had to have a hookup. If
Right.
you were in an apartment, I would
Couldn't
do
do it. Right.
waterless if I had to, but I try not to because
Yeah.
I was trying to cut down time.
Right.
But I wasn't even looking at that, like how much time was it really taking me to make, how much money was I really making. I wasn't looking at it because I was
Yeah.
looking at how much money I had in every little egg in every basket. You see what I'm saying? Because then
Yeah.
you're still, your valet's still making 30K a month. So like, really, is it hurting you to
Yeah.
charge
So you
me?
could do $25 washes without, I mean, you're really not making any money by doing that. But
I
like
didn't think about that.
you didn't really notice that you weren't making any money.
I wasn't here. Let me tell you where we'll go to the story in this part. So when we went to it, that's how it worked. So when I got the two trucks, everything was going good. In 2000, and I think it was 2018, closer, almost 2000. I went through a real bad separation before I met Donna. Of course, she gave me my company because it was mine from the beginning. And the previous marriage, I got everything back. And then when I had met Donna in 2019, you know, I was still doing what I was doing. I still had the two trucks and everything. Once she got, and it was funny because we weren't planning on marrying. You know, this would have been my third marriage, and I was like, I ain't getting married again. I'm tired of women. You know, like all the stuff you went through. You know, I'm never doing it. And then I don't know. In September, we ended up getting married. Like literally, like fell in love, got married, and then right as in September, this is crazy. Right in September, in that time frame, but I think right after the marriage, I lost the ballet company. The city shut me down. It was like, we're not operating. You need a permit to run it. And I'm like, we never had this before. Within 6 years, never had this. So I don't know what's going on. They shut us down.
You guys scratched some dude's car that was in with the city or something.
No, what happened was, and this is crazy. The ex, when we got a divorce, it was an ugly divorce. She came after my valet, and what happened was, because we ran so all the hookah places were basically underneath condominiums. Well, she was good friends with the HOA people of the
Oh.
property, so she found a way to shut me out,
Oh
and she
man.
shut me down quick. And I mean, like in a snap of a finger, I didn't even know. Like, we were talking about making so much money to the point where, like, what do I do? And this was
Yeah.
when I was going to see my mom. That actual day, I got a call. I remember I was at the apartment, got the phone call, and they're like, they're shutting us down or they're arresting us. I'm like,
Wow.
and you know, cops got on the phone. We knew what it was,
Yeah.
so I tell them, back off, take the weekend off, blah blah. We went to Florida, and I was stressing. I was like, what? Like, I didn't know what to do. I was like really stressing out. And the one thing she was telling me, my wife Donna, she was like, don't worry about that. She's like, you got another company. That's what another company's for. And I was like, huh? She's like, you're gonna take everything you get, whatever calls you get. I don't care what time it is. You're gonna take it. And I'm thinking, like, because I wasn't thinking longevity of this detailing. I'm like, no, this is making money. Valet's making me money. Detailing ain't gonna make me shit. And she's like, no, it's gonna make it. So, of course, in my head, I wasn't going for that. I was trying to find a way to save the valet company.
Yeah.
It wasn't going. It felt like God was just shutting that door. Like, nope, you are done. No more valet. Um, and at that mindset, you know, with making that money, and I wanted to still keep that fluctuating how I was living my lifestyle. I had to take everything that came through and still being at cheap. I remember one night we were laying in bed and I got a call. His name was Adam, and he was like, "Hey, y'all open?" It was 10 o'clock. I was laying down, like, bro, we're sleeping. He was like, and then my wife heard it, and she was like, "Yes, we're open." So I was like, "Okay, we're on our way." We went out there, detailed it to 11 o'clock. Something gave us $100 for doing it, and then that's how it was. From there on, I was literally taking everything came in. The strangest calls, the weirdest times, we took it. Cold, rain, sleet, it didn't matter. We was just taking it. And it was helping us. We were literally staying afloat, but we weren't making like what we were making before. So we took a downfall. And then she ended up losing her job. She got laid off from for the medical field. Not dental field is what she was working at. And we knew it was coming because they were laid off the only employees, but she was the only one answering the phone, rerouting people to other places. We knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
She gets laid off. We were struggling. I had to sell one of our trucks to survive. I mean, so I sold one of my trucks, and then I still like, okay, well, I have one left. Sold the small one, sold that bad boy. I loved it, but I had to sell it. And then after that, we had to once we got our money back up again. She kept saying like, "Why do you have trucks if you don't mind me asking?" And I was like, "I like the way they look. I love trucks." She's like, "Why not the van?" I was like, "Oh, a van." I was like, "I ain't driving around no van." I was like, "Get out of here. I ain't driving no van." I was too proud of that. And she was like, "Well, you're losing money." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "When it rains and it pours, you can't drive the truck because you got all those equipments and you can't get it wet." So she's like, "So what about all those people that live in garages that you could be washing them with, which they want to be clean anyways?" And I wasn't thinking. And I'm like, "You really think so?" And she's like, "Yes." She's like, "I'm telling you, you need to get a van." So we got our first van, and it was a junkie van. It was a 1992 Ford fucking E250. I apologize for the language. E250.
Econoline.
No radio, no AC. So like I was like downgrading from where I was coming from the truck. So I was like, my mind was like, when I first got it, when we first went there, I was like, no. Like the sliding door was barely, it slide to, but not all the way. It was like 75% sliding. And I'm like, no. And she was like, "Yes, this is the one." And I was like, "What?" She's like, "This is all you need. Trust me." So I got it. We put it together as best as we can to throw it in there. We just threw stuff in there, making it work. And then, days that it would be, and I'm talking about, in the 90s, 98s, 100s, it'd be so hot, no AC, windows rolled down, no radio to listen to. And then,
and if you've ever driven one of those vans, the windows don't help. Like that's there because it's a big box of heat. Like it does not help to open the windows in those things.
When you got your generators, you got all those that stay on in there, so it gets hot already. So it didn't. I didn't like. My wife wasn't working. It was just me and some other guy. We were just doing the job, and then because we started growing slowly and getting better and better as we went, but it just was not helping. Like I was like, okay, as we got more and more like in growth in it, and then I said, okay, let's sell the other one, and then let's look at trying to, because we had a little more money saved. So we sold the big boy one, got the money, sold one of our Tahoes, got a little money on that, and then we went to. I remember I had to go to Florida. We found this on the Craigslist, or not Craigslist, Marketplace. Found a good van. It was a 2006 E250. Of course, no radio. I had to make sure I got a radio on that bad boy this time. I flew all the way to Jackson and drove it all the way back. And it was our newest one. And this one here, we tried to do a rebuild, something better.
Yeah.
And this is where it came in, where my wife started visualizing it, because she started slowly transitioning, coming to work, because she stopped. Because you remember COVID hit in 2020. Oh, yeah. We were still busy. That's where I think where our growth was, because we were mainly the only detailer you seen driving to cars. The streets were dead. That's when my wife were coming in to help, because she got laid off. So she was like, "Well, shoot, I'm still getting paid from the state. I'll just come and help you a little bit. There ain't nothing else for me to do in the house." And she did. But she was when she did it, I swear, sometimes I laugh when I hear these things, which we talk about it. She would go out and she'd be like, is this the reason why I'm washing all these towels? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, we're using 4 towels to dry the car. Why are we not blowing it? I wasn't thinking about, I was like, I don't know. It's something I've always been doing. She's like, you're not doing the towels. I'm doing the towels. She's like, why do we not have a blower? And I'm like, what do you mean? What blower are you talking about? She's like, I guarantee you can find a handheld blower that can just blow all this off and will limit the towels. So I said, okay, we'll go look for one. And we went to Home Depot, got ourselves a little Echo one, and we blew it. And then she was like, see, now it's less towels. And, it was, like I said, I wasn't thinking, but she was more the brains of everything. She was the only person that actually grew, but she only the person that actually had vision and that I didn't see it in, so she just started, as she started slowly more progress working into it, started getting busier, she started putting her sense in it. And it took me a while to understand it because I think I felt like I've always became like my father, which I didn't like too much about how me and him ran our own company back in the days. We bumped heads a lot. And family is the hardest thing running a company. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, if anybody listening right here, if you got you and wife or you and family working together, you have to learn to take from work and separate it from family, from your personal life. Because if not, it's like you come home with the attitude at work, you're coming home with attitude at home.
Yeah.
And I think that was the hardest part. I would say from last year is when I started learning a little bit more about learning to do better for myself, and stop being in my dad's old ways and bumping heads. And because the hardest part was I was always fighting against it and not listening. Mm-hmm. So then when I started actually listening and say, hey, maybe I take the chance to listen to my wife first time, it's better to say that it's better for say that she was right than me be wrong, because then I always get the end of it. So I say, hey, look, at least if I'm right, I get the, parade for it. You know what I mean? So I took initiative to start listening to her more. And ever since then, it's just been like through the roof. I mean, it just keeps climbing and climbing. The better it's been than I've ever seen it. Last year is probably when I seen my biggest growth. Last year, but now now getting a little bit different. So a lot of things have changed. I did a podcast, like I said, with Under Pressure with Nick. He came in and did a podcast. When we were doing it at the time, we had crews already out running it. Chris, her son, been working with me since he was 14 years old. Now he's 19. He's been in the business. He ran it, so now he runs the crews, and he's been doing amazing. Like it was scary at first. I'm not gonna lie, to be something that I've been part of so much in my life, and then finally just kind of like let him have it. It was probably one of the toughest things I had to make a choice on, but I knew if it took it off my plate, I can focus on more things. I can focus on scheduling. I can focus on growth, more scheduling, find more new people. And that's where it came around, was realizing that I had to start getting somebody to take more responsibility. Wife takes over more of the HR stuff, does the scheduling. She does more of the scheduling, talks to people, and she does more, ordering stuff. We got to order stuff. She does all that. But for the most part, like I said, it's making a big change, man. But I think the hardest part, like I said, learning as an experience and not having any help would probably be is learning to figure out a way to cut your business away from your personal life. Especially if you're working for family, you guys got to learn. Now we're strong. I mean, don't get me wrong. We'll have our little moments. We'll have a little, we get a little arguments here and there, but we let it go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's good.
Too short to be arguing over bullcrap now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Hey, I want, one of the things that I picked up on that I think is probably very prevalent in our industry, which is, and I want you to talk about this aspect of it. First of all, I'm interested if you were insulted when your friend said you're just a hustler. I want to hear that. But it seems like your biggest struggle and challenge has been to transition from a hustler to a business owner, right? Yeah, and going through because maybe I would assume you agree with me that I think that's what we see all the time in our detailing industry.
Yep, I see a lot of it. So I'll make an example. So where that hustler came in was, I fired this girl because she was stealing money, and I knew something was this through the valet. This happened. I knew something wasn't right. And so I set it up a certain way to make sure I knew what I would like. I counted all the tickets. I wrote what number she had, and then kind of find out how she was doing, was taken from the middle stack. And I knew that's how at the end, because she was the only one who was responsible. She's the only one that holds it. And when I did, she knew she got caught. She just ignored me in my calls, blocked me, like almost like not blocked, but just put me to voicemail.
Yeah.
And she was a good friend of mine. Like I said, all these were good friends, like people that came in to help me out. And I knew something wasn't right. Like I just knew it off the bat. Like you just had that hunch. Like, yep. So when I did the test on her, I didn't tell her. I didn't tell nobody. And then I was right at the end. The next day, I went in on Sunday to check the numbers, and I was like, "Yep, she did steal it." Like, and I called her out. She sent me a long text and talking about you. She's like, "You fire me? You can't fire me." She's like, "At the end of the day, you ain't nothing but a hustler." She's like, "You're not even an owner." And like, and I showed my friend Ricardo. I'm like, "Bro, do you see this?" And he was like, sitting there like,
She's right. She's right.
You just a hustler, Jay. He's like, bro, you're just working. He's like, you're literally paying us. You're giving us money. You know what I mean? You may pay us. There's no payroll. He's like, you don't even have insurance on this. Like, I didn't even have insurance on this business.
Wow.
You're doing it without it.
This episode is brought to you by Detailer's Roadmap. Hey, spoiler alert, that's us. We all know you need a kick-ass website in order to be successful with your business. The good news is, at Detailer's Roadmap, kick-ass websites, that's kind of what we do. With the latest performance, designs, and SEO strategies, Detailer's Roadmap is your one-stop shop to be successful on the web. And don't forget, we have the best support team in the industry. Whether you're an existing partner looking to improve your lead generation or you need a brand new website, Detailer's Roadmap is here to help you be successful on the web. So go to detailersroadmap.com/success and get started today. That's detailersroadmap.com/SUCCESS.
Like, I was taking big risks on it, and I wasn't thinking logic of it. Like, people don't realize what happens when you're in the business when something does happen.
Dude, so, I cannot believe that you operated that way. Like one car, and like that's not just business changing. Like that's life changing.
I'm talking about we were doing Ferraris, Rolls Royce, Buckhead. It was the city that people still was going to Buckhead. People were still going to clubs. We were operating the number one hookah spot in Buckhead, where everybody, and we're talking about famous people from Jamie Foxx, Shaquille O'Neal, like everybody knew me. Like everybody knew who I was. And it was so cool meeting like amigos, the football players, the baseball players. Like that's where everybody was going. And before that time happened, before it even picked up, before even anybody knew what it was, I was hustling without insurance. I was hustling without permits. I was hustling without anything. And I didn't get the idea of it. Now, yeah, I might have my logo. I think I even had a logo that was called the Valet Service or something like that. Didn't even have a name, no business cards, nothing. And I didn't see it that way until my friend Ricardo literally told me, he was like, bro, that's what it is. You're not an owner. You're just a hustler. And my mindset has always been like that because that's how my dad is. My dad I never realized until I got older and started realizing when my dad used to, my dad was a big entrepreneur. This guy would do anything for money. He would go to Kansas City and with big U-Hauls and buy toys from, it's called, in Kansas City, it was like known for the biggest garage sale around the whole town. And he'd buy the stuff, re-clean it up and resell it. Beanie Babies, I remember back in those days, he was big on that. I remember I had to sit in line. I don't remember getting money out of any of that stuff, but we did. You
weren't even getting his leftover ones,
right? Like
come on, Pops.
I remember this is how big it was. My dad used to sell worms in Missouri, and Fort Leonard Wood. We were big known at worms, and that's how we would me and my dad would go and dig out worms and mosquitoes, and that's how we were making our money. $3 for a dozen.
Wow.
People knew us, the Worm Man. You know what I mean? So but again, my dad never, I'm not saying my dad never probably seen a vision in himself, but he was just, seeing it now, I look back and I'm like, he was just a hustler. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. I just felt like I could have done better. You know what I mean? So before I came to Georgia, before any other started, me and him own a company together, a legit company. It was Arroyo's Landscaping. And we were doing great. We started off for our very first thing. We had 10 houses together when we got involved. And then we got it up to 110 clients, and we were doing landscaping, real landscaping job. And we were
Nice.
making great, but we were bumping heads so much that it was mainly his way, not my way. He didn't see my vision. It's kind of like whatever he goes, that's what it was. And I was starting to realize I was taking what my father was doing, and I was doing the same thing to Chris. When he came up with ideas, I was no, my way or the highway. And I didn't look at it that way. I didn't understand what I was becoming. When someone says you're just a hustler. So like now, my uncle called me up, and he called me not too long ago, and he was like, "Hey, I want to open my own business and golfing business." And I was like, "Yeah, hell, okay, what's up?" And he was like, "Well, I want to come to you because I know you know the right way now. Like
Nice.
you think bigger than what it is." And I said, "Look, Uncle, I love my dad. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we have our fallouts and we have our disconnects, but at the end of the day, my dad was always a hustler. He doesn't look at the real vision of becoming a professional. If you want to do golf academy, you got to think logic. You got to think up top. You can't just think of just a side hustle. I say if you're doing side hustle, go do what you do. Don't ask for my advice.
Yeah.
But if I give you the advice, you don't want to take it. That's on you. We give these people a lot of advice. I mean, same thing with the detailers out here now. I do a lot of mentor with a lot of detailers, especially like low beginner ones. The problem is the mindset in it and what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's just they don't have no insurance. They're not legit. They're hustling. But
Yeah.
I can't argue with it because I was once like them. It's just learning from it. You know what I mean? Taking advice from people. But I think a lot of times, I think we run into a lot of problems, especially I think everybody's gone through it. It's pride. Taking advice, taking criticism, and then you feel some type of way. Just like I was telling you, even when my wife was coming with suggestions, I was always battling her against it. Like, instead of learning and listen,
Yep.
I think so now, like, she's like, I'm glad you're finally like actually listening to us. You're actually taking initiative to find something better. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's where we're changing everything around. So now where we're at the point now is like we have the old vans. We finally, our first van won't start on Monday. We fully made it because at the time we had the vans, there was just decals.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about there's writings on everything. There's like writings here, website here. We worked home. Like, it was so much. Like, I didn't realize how many decals were all over the place. And it was like, what? So when you really look at it versus how the new one is, you're like, holy crap. Do people can really read this? Because I couldn't read all this.
Yeah.
Versus now how the decal is. So now it's fully wrapped, full custom. We updated our logo, made it a little bit better professional. And that thanks to decal doctor here in Marietta, Georgia. He's been helping me out getting it up to right. We just got it back actually a few days ago, not too long ago. And this thing is like, people are fascinated the way this looks. And I never realized, and all he has is really our logo, email, and phone number.
Yep.
Like something that's all you really need. And like I said, I didn't see all this. I didn't understand all this until probably till like last year, in June and July. I don't know if you're following it. It's pretty big on Facebook. It's called Detailer for Money.
Yeah, I think whenever I was active in that group, there were like 500 people in it.
Man, I think there's 56,000 now.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in there.
It's huge. Like, it's getting big. I think Joey's the one that runs it. I think in Hawaii. He just actually called me actually today about stuff. But the one person that stand out on most of anybody in that page, and I give it to him, is Detailer Sarasota, Adam. And that I learned a lot from him. And then there's Anthony as well, that I've learned from him. And then Daniel. So there's main three. I think they did a podcast, all three of them together, pretty big. I listened to. I can't remember who. I think it was the one Detailers Association or something like that.
IDA. Did they do an IDA thing?
Yeah, they did the one with the three guys. I talked to all three of them. Great personalities, all different personalities. But the main one that stand out most with me was Adam. The way how he was thinking logic, like he was thinking smart, thinking how he did his colors and his bands and how he did his rep. And I literally sat down. I think we sat down for hours talking on the phone. Because I was telling him something is not right. Our setup, the way my wife had made us do, is there. Like, we have it right, but we were like, we're not making what we should be making. Like, how am I paying these guys to work? And at the end of the day, I'm only making like $300-400, and I'm still running a second van. I should be making thousands of this. So Adam looked through it and went through my website, looked at the price, and he was like, He's like, bro, you got to go up like 4 times the amount. And I was like, literally like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to scare my customers away. I'm not doing that. Like I literally was, everything I learned from him, I've been doing. The one thing that scared me was the pricing.
Yep.
And I think a lot of detailers, even nowadays, that's why I think the amateur level is they start off cheap to grow, but they're not realizing they're not really growing, and they're not getting where they need to be because they're not making any money. They're not making profit because of their time they put in. You know, you're talking about 2-3 hours on this car, and you're charging less than $100. You're not going to make it.
Yeah, why don't you just go work at Chick-fil-A? It's probably a better work environment. They even give you those little. They even give you those little things.
Why don't you just go be a hustler and go work at the valet at this point? You're like,
yeah.
At this point, you can work at a valet person and make $200 a day. You know, I just didn't get that. Like something was wrong. So when he did, me and the wife talked about it, and she's like, okay, like, I mean, he's making a good point about it. She's like, so we sat down for months and months. And we did the full change in January in wintertime, but we're very busy in winter because not a lot of detailers stay open in winter. So we stay open. We're year round. March is when we took an effect. And I say when we first did it, it was scary. I'm not gonna lie. I think we were at 400 and something clients, and now I think we lost about I say anywhere from 50 to 75% of our clients dropped us.
And so what? Give me some numbers. What were you charging, and now for the same service, and what are you charging now?
Okay, so like cars, this is crazy. So we were still for our cars. If you wanted to get your car washed, basic car wash inside and out, and that's a basic, thorough inside and out, $65 for a car.
Holy crap!
Yeah. Listen,
Adam was right, but
right from 25 we went to 65. You know what I mean? Hey, even when we were doing 25, we went up $10 because every year we were going up $10, right? And so when we were at 65, we were at 25, went 35. People were leaving us for 35. Like I didn't understand it, and I was like, damn, for $10. So when we went to 65 for a car, now just for a car, clean standard car, is $50. Like we had to really jump it up. Like we had to really kick it in the butt. You know, our SUVs back then, our SUVs were 75, 85 for SUV, and even pickup trucks were the same price. Now, I mean, you're paying 250, 300. I shouldn't like now. Even we did a Ace package, and that's a full shampoo and everything on a RAV4. We charge $650. Like I put numbers in like when I say I put it up there high, I put it up there high. Some of the people that have been with me since the beginning, I mean, I still have our clients that are still here in the beginning. I'm still have been with them, and I still break them a little bit. Yeah. But for that, they have to be on a loyalty program. For our loyalty program, it's like a membership.
Yep.
Weekly, bi-weekly, or I don't really do monthly. I think at that time it's like, bro, in a month, your car is destroyed in a month because I know how my car is destroyed in a month.
Yeah.
So now it's just I only work deals on weekly and bi-weekly, but I'm strict on it. So we had a client that we had clients that we're like, man, I guess they're done. I guess they're not going to do business with us. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. Me and my wife were so okay with it because seeing the new pricing and people actually accepting the new pricing, we started realizing we're getting a different type of clientele now.
Oh yeah, you're going to be way higher quality clients at that for the most part.
And the crazy part was we knew what our worth was, but we didn't understand what worth was to us until I'm not going to lie, until we started really getting up there. Like I said, last year was the year when I got into detailer for money and started seeing so many things and somebody talking about things and pricing and hearing from Adam and talking to Anthony about it and Daniel detailing. Like hearing those guys talk about how they know their worth and really showing their worth, we knew we were there. We just couldn't. We had to get it out of our mindset because I think in my dad's mindset, his thing was, because I always be like, why are we so cheap? When we were cutting grass, we would be so cheap. I'd be like, why are we so cheap? He's like, well, the cheaper you are, the more volume we get. But the problem was we were dealing with people that complain about cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you
cheaper? The cheaper they are, the more they complain. Usually,
right? And that didn't make any sense to me. So I'm like, what? I didn't understand that until I started getting more involved, like listening to people's podcasts, getting involved for other detailers, getting involved with we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So changing our mindset to that made us see the worth of us. So now when we say it is what it is. Oh, can you work it? No, I don't work a deal. Just
Yeah.
like the person calls, oh, dog pooped all over the car, needed shampoo. Okay, well, I charge you a biohazard fee on top of cleaning fee. And they were looking at me like I'm crazy. Okay, well, find somebody else to do it, because at the end of the day, I'm not
Dude,
doing
I
it.
don't do biohazard. I did a lot of interiors when I owned my own shop. I had someone, and I felt bad for the person, but they're like, I have this Yukon XL, and my brother-in-law committed suicide in the front seat. Can
Oh, my
you
God.
clean it? I'm like, ma'am, no. Sweet. Like, we're just not set up. Like, if we don't do biohazard stuff, like, of any kind. I don't want any bodily fluids. That's
No, I
beyond.
mean we do. We do biohazard. Really good at what we do, especially on our Instagram, our highlights. We have them, but we're suited up for it and we're qualified for it. I mean,
Yeah,
like
I
I
mean,
said,
you got separate equipment, you've got
yes.
separate PPE, you got all, like, I wasn't set up for that. So
Oh no, we are bags, everything. Like we're tied to right. You know, we do it the right way. We did that. We got it more big in biohazard when it came to COVID, and that's how we got more
yeah,
into learning it. So now we get, like I said, we're good. But we got people. Oh, I just have a little this mold here, man. When you have mold anywhere, we treat it as it's all mold. We do it the right way the first time, and you get
yeah,
people
the
that want to
spores
work,
are everywhere. They're in the AC vents, they're in everything else,
and
right?
that's
Like,
why
you're
I
never
try.
getting that out.
But you get people that want to take shortcuts and want to be cheap. And I always tell
Yeah,
them out of respect, hey, that's so cool. If you want to take shortcuts, there's other people that will do it, but you ain't going to put it on my name.
yeah,
And my name, like I said, I look at it as Ace of Spades. It's a high deck of, cards. I mean, at the end of
yep,
the day, I stand behind that.
yeah,
And I think that now that we know what our worth is, it just makes me more prouder that we're coming the right way. We're doing the right way. So, like I said, we got the new logo, the new custom van. I'm talking about from full inside and out, from the door handles replaced, everything. Like
nice.
from rebuild engine, we did that. When that comes in on Monday, the new one comes out on Monday, and then we'll pull the second one out. We'll strip it out and do the same thing, and we'll go for the third one.
That's
So
great.
we're transitioning perfect. We're learning a lot, but we're learning so much that we're trying to get all of it in, all of
Yeah,
it in. But the biggest thing that I'm more proud of is like taking initiative to finally like listen and quit being so hard headed. I think that's a lot of time is pride, man. If you
yeah,
started
getting
the
out that
business for
hustle
yourself,
mentality, right? Like, that's for sure. Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure if you started your company on your own, there's plenty of times people tell you stuff and you're in your own little way, and that's your way, and it's
yeah. I
understandable.
luckily learned early on
That's
that
good because I did it.
it was like, dude, I use this phrase: if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
See,
I always assume that I don't know anything because, and dude, I've had some of these guys on the podcast. I've had an opportunity to speak with, like, 8, 9, 10-figure businessmen and women and learning from them. Like, right. That, like, you're asking those guys that own the Lambos and
right.
Ferraris, just try to learn everything I can. But that humility is really the difference between whether or not you're going to succeed long term or not.
It is. It's like I said, you got to sometimes take your pride, swallow it, and listen. And then like I said, there's a lot of things that I've heard. Like I talked about Adam, there's a lot of things I listen to him, and I realized I'm not pricing his cars. I ain't gonna lie, some of his cars, they're up there. They're like thousands, but where his location is,
Yeah.
they can afford that
Yeah.
1,000, 2,000. They can afford a 5,000 car wash. Not me. They're
Yeah.
not Atlanta. There's too many out here. You're competing so much. So you got to stay in some range,
Yeah.
but yet I'm still going to know my worth. So I think that's the biggest thing is learning as we transition from, just me being by myself and starting getting crews and doing that. I think the biggest thing was learning to listen, even if there is somebody smarter than you, and like I said, her son, which is, I treat him like my own son. At 14, he quit school. And that when he quit school, as a stepfather, I had to stick in. I was like, hey, we ain't sitting around here. You either going to school or you're going to come work for me. And he
Yeah.
did. And he worked it. But there was a lot of things that he just didn't understand. Like, he was like, why are we doing this? And why I don't, like, shut up and do your job, that kind of shit.
Right. Yeah.
Now, as I gotten older and wiser and listening to more things and taking initiative to take a calm, because I'm all over the place. I'm like ADHD. I'm like moving here, moving here. I'm learning to take myself slower and be more peaceful in it. my wife's seen a lot of big improvements in me in that. Taking initiative when I'm wrong, and I apologize off the front. That shit's hard. I'm biting the bullet. I ain't gonna lie. For me, being being my dad and being stubborn, what it is,
Yeah.
that was hard. But
Yeah.
now I take it. So when they have advice, I listen. And
That's
then
good.
of course my wife will be like, "Oh, what you doing over there?" And I'm like, "Oh, doing this." She's like, "Oh, see, you listen to my idea." And I'm like, yes, I'm going to listen to your idea because at the end of the day, if it fails, at least I can say I told you so.
There you go. Yeah. Which is also not the right approach, my friend.
Right? It's still not, but I still celebrate it. You know what I mean?
As a guy that's been married to the same woman for almost 30 years, I think I could give you a little advice on that part.
And it still does it. But again, I like I said, I'm proud of myself. I take initiative to change, be a little bit more understanding, and understand that also another thing is how you talk to your employees, regardless if they're family or not. I think that was the hardest part. I think at the time, most of all my employees used to be scared of me because of who I was and what I made them feel like. And at the end of the day, intimidation is not the way to go. And
that's definitely not the way to do it.
It's not. And like I said, I had to learn the hard way. But learning the hard way, it's always good now because, like even with Chris now, like what he says, I listen to him, and
That's good.
He may not be the smartest in the room, but the kid is a brilliant kid, and he has so much ideas, learning stuff. He's trying to get more into the YouTubing. I mean, he's teaching me how to do editing and doing all this stuff. I don't know all that, man.
That's good.
That's not my cup of tea, but
that's awesome. Hey, I want to ask you. So, if you lost 50 to 75%. You quadrupled your prices. How is that revenue number shaken out?
So I'll make an example. So we were probably bringing about I say about 8K, somewhere between 8 to 10K on on a monthly.
Okay.
That's what we were averaging within the two vehicles. Right now, we're down one right now because it was transitioning in wintertime. We were like, all right, let's get this other van going, which we're going to bring the other two back in full operation. We're not worried about that. But right now, we're still in slow park because we're still in pollen and raining season here and there. And right now, we're averaging, I say, and I'm saying somewhere between 1,500, 2,000 a week. Now we're making double that or maybe more a week. And now the one thing where we had done, like I said, since we lost everything, and this has all happened recently within the 3 months, we were doing good. I mean, I tell you what, we were doing 40 cars a week. We're not doing that now, but we're working half the time and making more.
Yeah.
So it is a big difference in not realizing being cheap out here. That's where that's why a lot of people, I think, in the detailing business failed. And I'm kind of glad that we didn't because we had the other company that was making money for us. And of course, we were selling towels and foam guns. We manufacture our own stuff as well, too. So all that stuff, because we do so much.
Yeah.
It was costing us so much money buying it. It was better for us to go to China and have manufacture exactly how we want it. So we have our own foam guns, our own rags, our own polishing pads. We have everything on our own.
Well, it was a good idea until 185% tariffs.
Well, we did this way before that time came. We did in COVID. So if you
let's hope that you're stocked up until all this blows through, right? Like
we got thousands. I'm talking good. Thousands.
That's
so
good.
we got packed, and we still sell them to other detailers, but we got so much of it, it doesn't even affect us now. So it's like, okay, we're good for now until Trump figures out something. But,
yeah, they'll figure it out for sure. They'll get through this international pissing contest a little bit.
It will. Over time, it'll come. It calm.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I do see prices are gouging up, but I try not to look at that because, that just puts fear in people. I don't believe in all that. I let God handle it one day at a time. Yeah. But the biggest thing is, like I said, transitioning to what we've seen, losing that many clients, because I was telling Chris, I was like, hey, we're busy every other week now. Like this whole week we're just slammed, and then next week we'll be just a little bit, and then next week we slam. So it's just the way people are put on the rotation on the schedule. But I told Chris, and he knows, hey, look, we're like losing a good portion of our people. So of course we got to retransition everybody back in, get everybody more. The more clients we keep getting, the more it'll get into that rotation. But we're not working as much, and we're making more, so it comes out just as better for him too. So he's like, man, I'm working less, but I'm still making this almost the same amount. So in all reality, we're still doing good.
Yeah, and you prove two things. First of all, you can raise your prices by a lot.
Oh yeah,
and actually make as much or more. And
right.
you already proved what your capacity is in the business. So if you lost 50%, and then if you add 25% more, you're still operating at below capacity and making that's another 4 times as much as what you were making before.
Right.
So that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So like right now, like we still got a good amount of we got new clients that are on biweekly. So that's where we hit the big ones on the biweekly on the rotation every week. But I was telling my wife, I was like, man, all I got to do is have 3 or 4 cars and I already hit my numbers.
Yep.
Then me have to do 40 cars, within that week to hit a number because we were so cheap.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. And what what percentage? Because I've had this discussion over and over and over again. What percentage of your customers are on what I would call a maintenance plan?
The truth, I'm shooting where we're at now. Man, I say about 1 or 2%. Ain't really that many.
Not very many. Okay, and you're moving to that though, right?
Huh?
You'd like to have more of them on the maintenance plan, right?
I do, but sometimes I think when me and Chris talk, sometimes we get a little tired of doing the same thing over and over. Okay. We like challenges. So like when somebody comes in and they're like, oh, we got this and where we got that and we have a throw up, we have biohazard. To me, or we haven't cleaned this car in 2 years. And we're like, yeah, we can see.
Yeah, we can tell.
To me, I like those. I love dirty. I like the most dirtiest cars, mold, all that, because when people see the return around on that, they're like, whoa. Like they know I called the right guy. Like I no doubt about, even though they know that was expensive, they probably hit a little pocket in them. Like I said, our cars now on shampoo jobs are, our full interiors are now over $500 per car.
Yeah,
and there's some that are $1,000, but they pay it. But they see the value of it. You know what I mean? They see the worth of it than just being what you call it. Like I said, you could be cheap and they'll still point out some bullcrap.
Yeah.
You know
well, the industry's always, they always downplay interiors. Like, oh, I don't do interiors. Well, where I live, I did like 80% of my business was interiors. And like the turnarounds are always are crazy good. And you can make pretty good money doing it.
I never understood it until it just happened. Like I said, everything started last year in June and July when I got into detailer money. When I didn't even know anything about it until I started like really being. I wasn't really big on social media until I started. At night I'll throw and I'm like, man, there's a lot of detailing information.
Yeah,
that's how I started understanding more of it. And there was a lot of people who would be like, oh, I'm just doing interior only. And people would be like, that's dumb. Why would you just do that? I'm gonna tell you right now where the economy is going, where I'm seeing it. And I think Anthony had did it on his page on live, was explaining that these car washes are popping up everywhere. Mm-hmm. Self car washes are all over the place. I mean, me and my wife were even talking about owning one.
Dude, that is a money printing machine, by the way.
It is, but it costs a lot to get into.
Yeah, if you got a couple million, it's like the buy-in's $1 million at least.
At least $1 million to get it going, but we were looking at getting into one, and we actually were into it because we had both companies, because the Valley's still running. So we were like, okay, we can probably dig into this. I mean, because we were really pushing through. So we're like, well, if we do this, we can probably make this happen. But we just felt like it's too much running at one time. We wanted to make sure we build this up right. So ever since now that we have it, I realized that more people are calling us for more interior work than it is for now. So what we started doing was we changed all our prices around, and it did take us a long time. I think it took us 6 months to make sure we had it just right.
Okay.
And we ran through I think 52 detailer pages from website. You had to have a website for me to take you legitly serious. And we went through all your pay, and we wrote it out. We had a board of every detailer and what their price is, what their average, what from basic to full D interiors for buff, and we kind of priced ourselves right in the middle to where we were comfortable with.
That's
good. That's when we started seeing where we can raise ourselves a lot higher. And when we did that, it actually helped us scale it better. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't just pick out a number. We really made sure we were in the range with that.
Yeah.
So we went up more than our average, you know what I mean? But it's because we've been in the name for so long, been in for 2 years.
What that means is you can keep going up if you need to. Also, like you can do those adjustments and take the hit and all that. That's,
I mean, now what I say my price is what it is. Oh, I'm in a budget at 200. Well, not for me. Sorry.
That used to be my first question. People be like, well, what do you charge? And I'm like, well, what do you want to spend? Because that's the easiest way to close that gap.
The funny part that I have, my closing rates are in the 90%. I'm really good at talking to people, so I can close it. But the thing is, when people on budget, I can't defeat that. Like if
you're at 600 and they want to pay $99, like that's a waste of both of your time to have that conversation.
There are sometimes I'd be like, sir, you have a good day, and I cut them off because at the end of the day, I'm not going to hear playing these games. Well, I can only afford this. I'm sorry, I'm not me, but I do pass it along to the people that I mentor. Hey, call these people up. And they're like, wow, you're really good. And I say, yes, because at the end of the day, I'm a little different than these other detailers. You know, if you're looking for more of an amateur pricing, that's what it is. Sometimes you get people when they hear it, they're like, okay, look, you want it done the right way or you want it done again? There are times I've always come back to fix somebody's problems and they're paying more than what they should have. You see what I'm saying? So
100%.
You got to educate them too. I do know you got to educate your clientele of the difference between why your prices are a little bit higher than others. You know what I mean? But there are some people that are on a fixed budget and they just cannot afford all that. Yeah. So that's understandable. It's okay. It's just that's not the clientele I want.
Yeah, and then there's other businesses to be able to do that. I want to be respectful of your time and the listeners' time. Tell me one thing. What's the biggest thing you learned other than listening to Donna? The biggest thing you learned going from hustle mindset to business owner mindset?
I said the biggest thing I've learned was learning how to talk to people. Like I said, I think all the people that if you would have got everybody with me, they would probably say he was an ass. You know, like it was his way. I was prideful, and I think that's what I didn't understand it. You know, until I started when I soul searching myself and learning more about myself, it made me become a better person. You know what I mean? Just taking advice from people is okay. Sometimes it's probably the best. You know, you may, like I said, there might be somebody smarter in the room. You feel some type of way because he's smarter than you. But at the end of the day, it probably would be a lot better that you learn from him because you can grow it even bigger.
Well, I'll give you a little secret. Almost always, there's always someone smarter than you, especially, at least in my case. Like we're not as smart, we're not as talented, we're not as good looking as what we think we are.
Right.
But there are other people that we can learn from along the way. I love that answer. That's a great answer. I appreciate you taking the time to come on, share your story. That. I think it was awesome. And yeah, man, good luck with what's going on. If you don't know about pollen season in Atlanta, literally it's the most insane thing. You have you wash a vehicle, imagine it's dark colored, you pull it out, you go in and take a leak. When you come back, it's yellow. It's not even the same color as it started. So
yeah, I tell you, there's one guy. So he had this outside custom car built, a four-seater in Atlanta, like those all side by sides.
Yep.
But it was custom. I mean, it was bad. He used to have me go out there and detail it during pollen time. And of course, it's all in the open, and this is black and like chromed out and everything. And this was when I was doing Water's car wash, and I would wipe this whole thing. You don't even realize you're spending so much time re-wiping that you should just let it alone. You know, so now like what I do now, I don't even like when I wash the vehicles, I don't even go back and re-wipe. That's just what it is, man. It's just pollen. But pollen season out here, oh my God.
It's nasty. It's nasty for sure. All right, Jay, man, I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I appreciate giving me the time out here. I really do.
Yeah, brother. Say hi to your wife for us. We know she's running things, so.
Yep.
Head over to detailersroadmap.com and get your one-stop success solution today.